Yes, I do believe it's very unlikely to find another his equal, Huang Rong said. If Brother Jing heard your praises of him, his heart would be filled with joy, Mun Yanqi said. During the contest my father set up in Yanjing, a man defeated me. Huang Rong understood. I know now, she said. The person in your heart is the little prince, Wanyan Kang. Yes, it is the young prince, Mun Yanqi said. He is the one my heart wants. As a good person or a bad person, I still love him. Though she spoke softly, Mun Yanqi's expression was very firm. Huang Rong nodded her head when she suddenly realized she felt the same way about Go Jing as what Mun Yanqi said in such simple words. They grasped each other's hands and sat side by side below the locust trees with the sensation of shared feelings. Huang Rong thought for a moment. Then she gave the dagger back to Mun Yanqi. Elder sister, let me return this to you, Huang Rong said. Mun Yanqi did not take it. Keep it, this is your brother Jing's possession, she said. His name is carved there on the hilt. With it every day, She paused. If I should carry it every day, it wouldn't be very good. Huang Rong lovingly took the dagger and stowed it near her bosom. Elder sister, you are truly good, she said. After receiving the valuable dagger, Huang Rong was momentarily distracted from their thoughts. Elder sister, what business has drawn you to the south alone? Huang Rong asked. Maybe little sister can help you? Mun Yanqi blushed and lowered her head. I don't have any pressing matters at hand, she said. In that case, I will take you to see Master Hong, Huang Rong said. Mun Yanqi felt joy. Master Hong is here? She said. Huang Rong nodded before grasping Mun Yanqi's hand and pulling her up. Suddenly, she heard a sound among the branches above. A piece of bark fell to the ground. In the distance, they could see one person's shadow jumping happily from locust tree to locust tree. After a while, they could tell it was Hong Shikong. Huang Rong picked up the bark and saw characters carved onto its surface with a needle. 2 dolls like this are very good, she read. But if Ronger deliberately causes trouble again, then Shikong will beat you. The bark was not signed at the bottom. Instead, a gourd was carved in its place. Huang Rong knew Shikong carved the bark and couldn't help blushing. She knew Shikong had observed the whole fight and knew all about the particulars of the oath she wanted Mun Yanqi to swear. Both people had entered the locust grove and did not even notice Hong Shikong. The pair walked hand in hand back to the inn. Go Jing, who was sitting inside after he finished practicing, was shocked to see Mun Yanqi. He quickly said, Sister Mu, did you see my masters? Your respective masters and I left the capital together and went south to Shandong, she said. We split up there, and I have not seen them since. Are my masters well? Go Jing said. Be at ease, brother Go, Mun Yanqi said with a smile. They are not angry with you. Go Jing was indeed very worried, fearing his masters were very angry at him. He rose and fiddled with some tea and food as his simple mind was lost in thought. Mun Yanqi turned to Huang Rong and asked how they met Hong Shikong. Huang Rong told the tale alone. Little sister, you are so blessed, Mun Yanqi said with a sigh. You spent so much time with Master Hong that you lived like a little family. But I only wanted to see him, and he is not here. He was looking after you, Huang Rong said comfortingly. He would have revealed his true ability if I tried to injure you. If I had hurt you, how could he have not acted? Mun Yanqi nodded in acceptance. Go Jing thought this was strange. Ronger, why would you want to injure Sister Mu? He asked. I cannot say, Huang Rong said quickly. Mun Yanqi smiled. She feared I would, she said without finishing. Although she spoke of the matter, she felt shy about the subject. Huang Rong reached out and tickled Mun Yanqi's armpit. You dare to speak of it? Huang Rong said with a smile. Mun Yanqi stuck her tongue out and then shook her head. How would I dare? She said. Don't you want me to swear an oath? Huang Rong spluttered as she recalled trying to force Mu Nianqi into swearing to not marry Go Jing. Both her cheeks turned a bright red. Upon seeing their shared emotions, Go Jing felt great happiness. After eating, the three went into the middle of the forest and strolled as they idled away their day. Huang Rong asked Mu Nianqi how she received instruction from Hong Shikong. "It happened when I was very young," Mu Nianqi said. "I followed father to a river in the Henan province. We stopped at an inn, and while I played at the entrance, I saw two beggars lying on the ground, bleeding profusely. No one was willing to help them because the sight of the beggars' internal organs disgusted them." Huang Rong made the connection. "Oh, so you showed compassion," she said. "You tended their injuries." "I too could not do much for their injury," Mu Nianqi said. "But I pitied them and took them father's room where I cleaned their wounds and bandaged them. When my father returned, he said I did the right thing, and then sighed and said how his former wife was kind-hearted as well. Then my father gave the two beggars some money to help them with their injuries. They thanked him and left. After several months, we went to Xinjiang, where we ran into those two beggars again, who had already recovered from their wounds. They took me to a temple, where I first met Hong Shikong. After praising me, he taught me the wandering strides form, which took 3 days. On the 4th day, when I returned to the temple, the master had already gone." Huang Rong said, "Master Shigong doesn't allow us to teach his skills to others. But if you, my sister, would like to learn my father's skills, I could spend the next few days teaching you some of them." When she found out that Mu Nianqi did not want to marry Go Jing, a burden was lifted from her heart, and then she felt that she was a really nice person, so she wanted to make her a gift. Mu Nianqi said, "Many thanks, but at present I have some urgent matter to attend to. In future I would ask you even without you suggesting it." Huang Rong wanted to ask her what was it, but one look at her face and Huang Rong knew she did not want to talk about it and thought, from her shyness, it seems like she's made up her mind. If she doesn't want to mention it, it's alright. Mu Nianqi left the inn around noon in a hurry and only returned after dusk. Huang Rong noticed the joyful expression on her face but pretended that she paid no attention. After their meal, the two ladies retired and Huang Rong saw her cheek resting on her palm and her heart seemed full of emotions, so she pretended to sleep. After a while, she saw her reach into her bundle and took something out, kissed it lightly and looked at it fondly. Huang Rong looked over her back and saw that it was a piece of finely embroidered handkerchief. Suddenly Mu Nianqi jerked around and the handkerchief fluttered. Huang Rong was shocked and immediately shut her eyes while her heart pounded. She only heard the slight breeze in the room and carefully lifted her eyelid. She saw Mu Nianqi pacing around the room executing moves randomly. She said to herself, "Hey, that is the handkerchief she snatched from that young prince during their sparring match the other day." She saw Mu Nianqi smiling to herself, and felt that she was reminiscing of that day's events as she was imitating Wan Yinkang's movements and actions. She did that for some time before walking near her bedside. Huang Rong closed her eyes tightly as she knew Mu Nianqi must have been looking in her direction. After a brief moment, she sighed. "You're really beautiful." She suddenly turned around and opened the door and walked out. Huang Rong became curious and gave pursuit, and then utilized her Qinggong to follow her. Her Qinggong was better than Mu Nianqi's, but she kept her distance behind to evade detection. She saw her jump onto a roof and glance around. Mu Nianqi then jumped to a larger building on the south. Huang Rong had been visiting the place daily to buy groceries, and knew that this was a rich man's house, so she thought, most likely she'd run out of money, so she came here to get some. Huang Rong saw that the door was brightly painted and there were 2 large lanterns suspended at the door inscribed with the words, "The Great Jin Kingdom's Envoy," and there were 4 Jin soldiers guarding the door. She had passed this door numerous times but had never seen this before, so she thought, she wants to rob the Great Jin's bounty. Thoughts great, After she's done I can also help myself. She then followed Munyanchi to the back courtyard and saw her hid around at every other corner, so she followed suit. They saw the candlelight coming from the room and there was a man's shadow there pacing about the room. Munyanchi cautiously walked over and gazed at this shadow. After some time, the shadow was still pacing around while Munyanchi was staring at him motionlessly. Huang Rong became impatient and thought, Sister Mu is hesitating. Why doesn't she just barge in and immobilize him? She went around the other side and thought, I'll help her by immobilizing him and hiding in one corner to surprise her. Just as she was about to enter through a window, she suddenly heard the door open and a man went in, saying, Reporting, sir, the Southern Imperial Court will send a special envoy here the day after tomorrow. The man nodded and the messenger left. Huang Rong thought, so the guy inside is a Jin nobleman. Sister Mu must have some good reason for coming here and not for burglary. I shouldn't interfere. She dipped her finger in her mouth and poked a hole in the window panel and peeped in. She was surprised. It was none other than the young Prince Wanyan Kang. In his hand was some black object, and when illuminated by the candlelight, Huang Rong saw that it was the head of a rusty spear. Huang Rong did not know that this spear was his father Yang Taizin's property and only felt that it had something to do with Munyanchi, so she laughed to herself, the two of you are really acting in concert, don't tell me you're really inseparable. She uncontrollably let out a laugh. Wanyan Kang was startled and quickly extinguished the candle, exclaiming, Who's that? Huang Rong took this chance to sneak behind Munyanchi and swiftly sealed her acupoints, rendering her immobilized. Huang Rong laughed. Don't be afraid, I'm just letting you meet your sweetheart. Wanyan Kang opened the door and was about to run out when he heard a girl giggling. Your sweetheart is here, catch. Wanyan Kang exclaimed, What? A body landed in his arms, and the girl who spoke was swiftly over the wall laughing, Sister, how can you thank me? As the laughing faded, the girl in his arms struggled to get down. Wanyan Kang was shocked beyond words and immediately stepped back, asking, Who's this? Munyanchi said softly, Do you still remember me? He felt her voice was familiar and stammered, You're Miss Mu? She replied, Yes. He asked, Who came with you? She said, It was a mischievous friend, I didn't know she followed me. He stepped in and relit the candle, saying, Come in. Munyanchi bowed her head and entered, sitting on a chair silently but with a deafening heartbeat. Wanyan Kang saw that she was blushing profusely. He said soothingly, Why are you here to find me at this time? She did not reply. He thought of his parents' deaths and said softly, Since your father is dead, you can stay with me and I will regard you as my sister. Munyanchi replied, As my foster father. Wanyan Kang was surprised and thought, She's telling me we're not related by blood. He took her hand in his and smiled. Munyanchi's face reddened drastically and her head bowed lower. Wanyan Kang's heart was on fire and he hugged her, whispering into her ear, This is the third time I'm hugging you. The first was during our sparring match, the second was just outside and now there's no one else around. Munyanchi said and felt extremely sweet inside, which happened for the first time in her life. Wanyan Kang smelled her fragrance and felt her slender body and decided that it was all surreal. After a while he asked, How did you find me? Munyanchi said, I'd been following you. Every night I stare at your shadow but I didn't dare. Wanyan Kang realized that her feelings were deep and was very touched, so he kissed her forehead. In the heat of passion he hugged her tightly and kissed her for a long time. Munyanchi whispered, I'm an orphan, don't abandon me. Wanyan Kang embraced her and stroked her hair, saying, Don't worry. You will always be mine and I'll always be yours, okay? Munyanchi felt great joy in her heart and looked into Wanyan Kang's eyes, and nodded. Wan Yinkang saw that she was blushing profusely and did not care anymore. He blew out the candle flame and carried her to the bed and tried to undress her. Munyanchi was somewhat intoxicated, but when he touched her, she hastily pushed him away and said, "No, we can't do this." Wan Yinkang hugged her and said, "I will definitely marry you. If my heart changes, I shall die a horrible death." She placed her hand over his mouth and said, "Okay, I believe you." He then said, "Then allow me." Mu pleaded, "No. Wan Yinkang was really aroused and tried to undo her clothes. She struck out with half her maximum force. Wan Yinkang did not expect her to use her martial arts at this moment and he was shoved away. Munyanchi jumped down and snatched the spearhead and pointed it towards herself, saying, "If you force me, I shall die in front of you." Wan Yinkang's passion immediately turned to ice and said, "All right, let's talk about this. Don't do that." Munyanchi said, "Though I'm a poor girl who wanders through Jianghu, I have my dignity and self-respect. If you truly love me, please respect me. I have no other wish in life but to be with you. In future, if I marry you, I'd of course obey you. But today if you try to violate me, I would rather die." Though she said this softly, she never hesitated. He silently admired and respected her, saying, "Don't be angry, it's my fault." He got off the bed and relit the candle. Munyanchi heard that he knew his mistake and said, "I'll wait for you at my foster father's home in the Ox family village. You can send the matchmaker anytime." She paused and said, "If you never show up, I'll just wait for my whole life." Wan Yinkang was really touched and quickly said, "Don't worry, when my official business is complete, I'll come immediately. In this life I shall never change my mind." Munyanchi smiled shyly and left. Wan Yinkang shouted, "Don't leave, let's chat for a while more." Munyanchi waved and left. Wan Yinkang stood there and stared at her departing shadow and felt like it was but a dream. She did leave a few strands of hair behind during their struggle, which he placed in his pouch. When he first sparred with her, he did not think much about it, but he did not expect her to follow him here and stare at his shadow every night, and yet she severely cherished her chastity, deeply earning his respect. He smiled and sighed,